Hey friends, it's Ashley Cash with The Workshop. I wanted to just thank you for taking the time to craft with us today. You're going to be learning how to make a grapevine holiday wreath. It's going to look beautiful when you're done. We will have step-by-step video tutorial, so keep watching and have fun. Thanks. Hey guys, this is going to be your first step. What we're going to do is discuss the materials that you have in your wreath kit. You can see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but you will have a handmade grapevine wreath. This is from North Georgia and it's hand tied, and you will have some various greenery. You'll have a long sprig of pine with a pine cone. You'll have a bunch that's just in a really pretty assortment, different textures, different colors. You'll have 3 long standard pieces of eucalyptus. You'll also have your floral wire, which has been cut into 3-inch sections. You'll have approximately 20 pieces. You may not need that much. And then you'll have your choice out of 3 different ribbons. This one is the red and black buffalo plaid, but we also have cream and gray and black and white. So you can choose what you want to make your bow out of. You don't have to have a bow, but those are the materials you're going to want to use in your kit. Also, the tools that'll be provided for you beyond this will be some scissors if you need to trim anything, and hot glue to stick down any items that are need a little additional help beyond the floral wire. Those will be provided to you by the people in your class tonight. So those are your materials. Okay guys, we're gonna get started on our wreaths. What I like to do first is I always choose the heaviest or longest piece that I'm gonna put in my wreath. I always anchor that in first. So in this case, it's gonna be our longer pine piece. What you're gonna do is you're gonna let your wire stem work for you in this case. What we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of bend it and make sure it's in kind of a half circle shape so that it follows the direction of the wreath itself. And then we're going to find these connector vines on your wreath. You'll notice that it winds all the way around the wreath. Typically they're thicker than the other vines that make the circumference of the wreath. What I want to do is tuck my stem of this long greenery into my wreath using that connector piece as my guide. So as you can see now, my greenery is now stuck into the wreath. However, I didn't even have to use any floral wire. What I would like for you to do periodically as you're building a wreath, flip your wreath over, look at the back side, and make sure you don't have anything that you've just pushed in sticking out. So in this case, I did. The bottom of the stem is sticking out, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I tuck that back in so that we don't show our secrets, even if somebody's looking at the wreath from the back. So now we have this long, pretty piece attached to the wreath at this one point. I'm also going to take one of my, can you guys see that? It's really, really thin. I'm gonna take one of my pieces of floral wire and I'm gonna hook it underneath another connector piece, and then I'm gonna grab my long pine piece, and I'm just gonna do a simple twist to anchor this down so that it's really, not flying away. And I just do a couple twists, and then I'm gonna tuck the legs that are left on the floral wire underneath so that it's not showing. Okay, so that's step 1. Okay guys, we're gonna get started on our next step, which is to add the really pretty floral that you have options. We've got in your kits, there are 6 of one kind and 6 of another kind, so you guys can kind of duke it out to see who wants what. But this one in particular has some fun little chestnuts. It's got a burlap leaf, it's got red berries, it's got a really cool wicker ball, and then some different assortments of pine. So what I did with this is when I'm going to the store and choosing how I'm gonna build my wreath, what I'm gonna buy, I try to choose the path of least resistance and make it easy for yourself. Something like this, super affordable, but also you're not having to individually attach these things to your wreaths, because here you have a handy dandy stem that keeps all these guys together. So make it easy on yourself. Let the stem do the work for you, and then just place it, and then we're going to use our floral wire to tack it into place and kind of maneuver these pieces that are all on wire to how we want it to look on our wreath. So same technique as before. I'm going to go back to my connector piece here on the wreath, and that thicker vine that holds the wreath together that goes all the way around it. I'm going to use the same one, and I'm going to tuck this little piece. I'm going to bend my wire just a little bit so that it kind of follows the curve of the wreath, and I'm going to stick this guy in here, and I'm going to push him down and get him in place to where I want him. And then again, I'm going to flip it over, make sure that I don't have a stem sticking out. I don't see one in this case like we had before, so I think we're good. And as you can already see, moving this around, it's already pretty nicely stuck. However, I want to tack it down a little bit more as I manipulate it to exactly how I want it to look. And I want some pieces to kind of come in the center. And I'm going to pull this guy back a little bit because I want to see my chestnuts. I'm going to bring the pine cone around a little bit. Just kind of maneuver things around how you want them. And then using your floral wire, you're going to tack it down in various spots wherever you feel like it needs a little extra. Tack it down. So same thing, go underneath your stem, underneath your vines. Make it really, really tight, and then give it a couple twists, and then tuck it underneath. It's as simple as that, you guys. Now in the end, if you have pieces that are just not wanting to sit the way you want them to sit, go grab a little bit of hot glue, put just a dab of hot glue on the back of whatever you want to tack down, and then hold it in place for about 10 seconds, and the glue should adhere to your wreath, so that you don't want to have a wreath that's completely built on hot glue. That's not a long-term solution. Use your floral wire to build your wreaths, but the hot glue is nice at the end so that we can really get the look that we want and the shape that we want. Because in my mind, I like to have a couple things kind of coming into the wreath to make it look a bit more organic, so that when I hang it up, it'll have these really pretty accents on the outside and then on the inside. Hey guys, we're going to keep going with our wreath building. The next step we're going to do is we're going to attach our standard eucalyptus. In your kit, you're going to have 3 separate stems of standard eucalyptus. These are rather long, but I wanted to add something that had some structure. It's on a wire, so we can bend it and mold it the way that we want it. Also has an interesting texture. Whenever I'm doing wreath building, I always want to look at something, especially when we're doing an asymmetrical wreath design like we are today. I want to add something that's got really cool texture. I want to have something that's got height to it so that I can build my wreath and make it really interesting. Eucalyptus is super popular right now in any wreath building. However, with a holiday wreath, it's a little more unexpected. So I thought it would be a cool addition to the look we're going for today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first stem, and I'm just going to kind of lay it in different spots and see exactly how I want it to kind of mold into the look, and decide where I'm going to put my 3 different ones. I think I'm going to do my first one here. We're going to use the same technique as before. Let the wire stem work for you. So I give it a little bend, nothing major, and I'm going to tuck it in. Now this doesn't, because it's more lightweight than the other pieces we've put in, we don't necessarily have to tuck it underneath this connector. We can tuck it just in the circumference vines of the wreath, and this is going to feel a bit more loose as you put it in. So what I'm going to do is immediately use some of my floral wire again, and I'm just going to, here's a tip too, if you want to bend your floral wire and kind of make a U, can you guys see that? Make kind of a U or a V shape. It's easier to kind of hook it in and grab some of the vines to be able to tack down your pieces. So I'm going to grab some vines, same technique as before. I'm going to twist it a couple of times, and then I'm going to hide my wire, and I'll fool with it a little bit to make sure it's kind of where I wanted it to go, but I'll mess with it later. And if you feel like you need another piece of floral wire, adding one closer to the base of it or to where the start of the first couple of leaves, that might also be a good idea. Again, like we did before, we're gonna flip it over, make sure we don't have anything sticking out the back, which we don't, so we're good to go with our next piece. I'm gonna add this one. I kind of want this one to be showing from the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to turn this on its side a little bit and stick it in that way. If you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm sticking it in sideways. And I really want this one to kind of stick up through and behind my pine. So what I'll do is I'm gonna leave that one where it sits, and then I'm going to get a little more floral wire, flip it over, and same technique, I'm going to flip it, but this time I'm gonna add the floral wire on the underside of the wreath and tack this down, give it a little twist so that this stays in place. See how beautiful that is? It's just peeking out from the back. And then my third piece, I'm going to add kind of down here. I want it to show from the bottom, so I'm going to stick it in. I'm gonna go underneath these guys, and he's gonna be coming kind of out to the front, I think. I may change that, but let's see. Kind of like him hidden. So you can see how all three are just kind of moving around the wreath. And it really adds some really interesting touches to it. The next step, we're gonna add our bow and you'll be done. Hi again, friends. We're gonna take a break from the wreath making to make our bow. So what I want you guys to do is you're going to measure out your ribbon, and you want to have enough ribbon to make a 6-inch in diameter circle 4 times. So what that means, I'm gonna unroll this. Easiest way to do it is kind of eyeball it, make your circle. See how I did that? About 6 inches. I'm not measuring, nothing major. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep rolling it in this motion, and we want 4 circles all together. So you can take your rolls that are included in the kits and just roll it right off of the spool. Makes it super easy. So there I've got my 4 circles. I've got a starter piece, or excuse me, an end piece here, and on the inside of the circle, you'll be able to see my starter piece right here. You see that? So what we want to do is we want to find the center of our circle. So what I do is I'll pinch it together like that. And then I will, just to double check to find my center, I'm gonna fold it in half, and where my fold is gonna be my center. I'm gonna unfold it a little bit, but I'm still marking my center with my 2 thumbs, and I'm going to cut one side, and I'm gonna cut the other side. But see how my 2 fingers are not touching? I'm not going to cut all the way through my circles. I want to have a little bit of fabric left right here in the center. I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm going to cut about 1 inch on one side, or excuse me, about 1/2 inch on one side, 1/2 inch on the other side, okay guys? Nothing goes all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off camera so that you guys don't have to see me fool with it. Well, actually, you probably would want to. Don't laugh at me, I'm using a Swiss Army knife because I've already got all of my tools packed for another class in the car. So use anything, girls and gentlemen. So you cut halfway through on that side, flip it around, and give it another snip on this side. So you have these like easy, manageable flaps, so to speak, I guess is a good way to put it. But we cut. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some of our floral wire and we're going to take it around the center See how I did that? It's actually hooked in the 2 little notches that we just cut. I'm gonna take it to the back and I'm gonna twist it tight, probably about 5 times. And then we have our basis for our bow build. So that flap that's left over, I'm gonna take him and tuck him underneath. You guys are not gonna hurt this ribbon. It's wired ribbon, it's sturdy. So beat it up a little bit. Now, to start making the loops in our bows, we want to take the innermost circle on one side, doesn't matter what side you start with, take the innermost circle and you're going to take him and pull him to the front, or the center, I guess rather. Then you're going to take the next circle, pull it from the other side, pull it to the center, and so forth. So we've got one side now of 1, 2, 3, 4 loops. So I'm gonna flip it around and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Innermost circle first goes out and up. Next circle from the other side goes out and up. Next circle, out and up. So now you have 8 loops. So what I'll do is I'll start forming my loops to make sure I like how it looks. It doesn't have to be perfect right now because we're gonna fluff it and make it perfect after we attach it. But look how easy that is, you guys. Now you've got a beautiful loop bow to put on your wreath. If you would like to have feet on your bow, you're gonna wanna cut a long piece that's about 1.5 feet. Grab it by the center, and then you're gonna flip your bow over, and where you have the legs of your floral wire still sticking out, you're gonna use those to attach your legs to your bow. So when you attach that, you have a bow that now has legs. And it makes it super easy because we've used the floral wire to attach it to your wreath. Okay guys, we are gonna finish up our wreath now that we've got our bow made and we've got our legs attached to the bow and we've got our floral wire coming off the back of the bow. Hopefully you can see that. We're gonna attach it to the wreath. I like to attach, now this is completely a personal preference, but I like to anchor all of my floral with a bow. So I'm gonna attach my bow down here and I'm gonna let my floral wire work for me. So I'm gonna stick it through and I'm grabbing, what you can't see me doing right now is I'm grabbing some of the vines underneath and I'm attaching my floral wire that's to the back of the bow to my wreath. And what I'm gonna do at this point is now I'm gonna fluff my bow the way I want it to look and make sure that it's got all of the loops showing beautifully. And you can play with this a little bit. And I'm gonna make sure I've got my legs. I like to bend the legs just a little bit to make it look a little more natural, like it's been windblown or something. And that's it, you guys. That's your wreath. Simple as that, with a beautiful 8-loop bow. I hope you had fun crafting with us, and we would love if you follow us on social media. We are the Workshop Stop LLC, and you can also see a lot of our stuff online at www.theworkshopstop.com. Have a wonderful holiday. Thanks.